And just to let you know, the candidates who are running in Kensington, they are Jay Aston Cahoon for the Brexit Party, Jack Bovill as an independent, Felicity Buchan for the Conservative Party, Emma Dent-Coad for the Labour Party, Scott Daw for the Workers' Revolutionary Party, Harriet Gore for Touch Love Worldwide UK, Sam Gyimah for the Liberal Democrats, Vivian Lichtenstein for the Green Party and Roger Phillips for the Christian People's Alliance. Now, politics is usually dominated by the two big parties, but as you can just see from that candidate list, elections give a chance for smaller parties to make their pitch to voters as well. Joining us now is the leader of one of such party, the Greens Party's co-leader, Sian Berry. Thank you so much for being with us today. Now, I'm keen to kind of get onto your policy offer, but first, I just want to get any reaction that you might have had to the story that we're leading with this morning, the interview with Prince Andrew. I don't know if you managed to watch any of it.
I've seen parts of it, and I think it is really important that people at all levels have to answer questions to allegations like this. The Me Too movement, it's thrown up so many instances of women being exploited and abused by men in positions of power, and when there are allegations like this, they do need answering, no matter who someone is.
Do you think the royal family in particular need to be more accountable sometimes?
I think they need to be as accountable as anybody else, and I think it's right that he has answered these questions on the interview, although I wasn't particularly convinced. I think we need to hear more from him on this as well.
Do you think that he should have apologised, perhaps, for his friendship with someone who was a convicted sex offender?
Yeah, it wasn't a very empathetic interview, if that's an OK thing to say, with the victims. And I think he should have been more apologetic and taken more responsibility for some of the things that his friend was doing.
And potentially talk more about the women and the girls who were at the heart of the story.
Yeah, they were very much not part of his thinking, I think.
OK, thank you for that. Now, let's move on, shall we, to the election campaign and the Green Party, because I'm interested in some of the spending pledges that you've been making, because it does look like we're having quite a high spending election on all sides, but the Green Party in particular, for example, a pledge to spend £100 billion every year to tackle climate change. How are you going to afford this?
Well, I mean, it's good that all the parties now are saying, essentially, that austerity was a mistake, that we need to invest in the country, that we need to invest in people, the infrastructure needed to sort out climate change. And we are the only party really putting forward the right figures for that, and so they're so high because we're playing catch-up on the last 20 or 30 years. My whole lifetime we've done nothing to do this. It can be paid for. There's a low borrowing rate at the moment. We think that the servicing costs of this debt can be managed through revenue, and
just on that
point, what's needed.
On that point, there is a low borrowing rate at the minute, but if investors and lenders look at a future government's proposals and see they're going to be borrowing billions and billions and billions of pounds more, that borrowing rate is going to go up, isn't it? Because they will think that the UK has a bigger risk of defaulting.
But when they look at what we're spending the money on, we are investing in a more resilient economy. We're investing in green energy, in homes that cost less to heat, in warmer homes, so healthier people in the population. We're investing in new jobs, which will start paying back in taxes soon afterwards. These are really, really good investments. This is like the opposite of a black hole. It's about building a stronger country right into the future and ensuring that we do have the future, that the young people today will not forgive us if we do not build. So it's playing catch-up. It's a lot of money, but it's what's absolutely needed. And we're the ones who are holding all the other parties to account on their spending pledges as well. We can say, you know, with confidence that the Conservatives aren't doing enough, that Labour's spending pledges aren't enough, that the Liberal Democrats are going nowhere near as far as they should, because we're the Green Party. We invented the Green New Deal over 10 years ago. We've been saying this for 30 years.
I mean, I'm not talking about what you're spending the money on and what the rights and wrongs of it. I'm just talking about the amount of money you're talking about. In the IFS example, calculating the Greens' proposals would take borrowing to £140 billion. I just want to show you one graph as well. This is research that The Times carried out yesterday. And this is the party's spending pledges so far that they've calculated. So the Lib Dems on £193 billion, the Conservatives £210 billion, Labour on £473 billion, and then you've got the Green Party on £959 billion. I mean, OK, you might not be expecting to be in government, but come on.
Well, half of that is our Green New Deal spending over the time,
over the period.
I'm not
asking about what it's on.
And The Times has made a miscalculation. And well, one of the other policies, I mean, we are putting forward big ideas every day in this election. We are more to come this week.
Like it.
One of the things we announced this week was the idea of a basic income for every citizen. Now, this is something else that costs money, but it's the power parallel to the Green New Deal spending.
Don't you have a responsibility
in people? And the Times have overestimated the cost of that, so that isn't quite as high as it would say. But I'm not going to mess about. We are planning to invest an awful lot in this country over the next 10 years because it is needed. We do have to transform the economy. We do have to completely change a lot of our systems. I mean, you look at our manifesto later in the week, we'll be talking about transforming our democracy as well, the way our communities work. The Greens have been putting forward big ideas for 30 years. People need to start listening to us now, or soon it'll be too late.
One of your policies that you've released today is this idea to increase the minimum wage. And again, it's a policy that many people really like the look of, but if you look at the numbers, it's a big increase that you're proposing to the minimum wage here. You're tripling the minimum wage for 16-year-olds, doubling it for 18-year-olds. Employers will have to pay an extra £3.79 an hour for people over 25. I mean, for some small businesses, they're just going to cut jobs, aren't they?
Our policies towards small businesses are, across the board, very positive for small businesses. But these are, again, this is what people need in order to live a decent life.
But if you're a small business owner, you might not be able to afford it. I mean,
yeah, so exactly. So our other policies will be positive for businesses. For businesses, for example, we're looking in London at defining a working rent. Businesses are stuck with huge rents and business rates, and we'll help them on that score, whilst helping their workers too with this new rate. But it's completely unjust that people under 25 can be paid a literal pittance for the same work that someone older does. And the government way of calculating what they call a living wage is not correct. It is not a living wage. And so we are saying we would make sure everybody was paid £12 an hour by 2022, and it would not discriminate against younger workers in the way that it does now.
I mean, some of our viewers might be listening to what you're saying and think this is just typical opposition politics. These are the kind of fancy baubles that a party can put forward if you don't really think you're going to have to work out how the sums add up.
Well, we're quite serious about Greens, the new Green MPs who are going to be in Parliament, having a big influence on the next government. This is all about working with other parties in opposition to get them to take up our ideas. And all of these ideas are things that we think the other parties should be adopting. Some of them are doing it already in little bits and pieces. But I think having a strong Green voice in Parliament pushing for these ideas is going to be the outcome of this election. And I really think that in some of our key seats, particularly where we've cooperated with other parties, we've demonstrated the grown-up politics that Greens can do, and we'll do that after the election as well. We'll be putting the case for these policies, putting the business case for these policies, the social case, the environmental case, and people will be convinced.
Talking about your candidates then, how many MPs do you think is realistic that the Green Party could win at this election?
At the moment, we're focusing on 11 seats, the 10 within the cooperative agreement that we made with Plaid Cymru and the Liberal Democrats. We're really proud of that agreement and the fact that there are key seats now where Greens, standing as the strongest Remain candidate, can get elected. And then the other seat is Sheffield, where we've got a very, very strong Green Party. We've been talking about trees policies this week. Greens on the council there have been defending the trees against the Labour Council. We think we should win.
So you think you could win 11 seats?
It's not, I mean, obviously an uphill battle. If you look at what happened in 2015, when we were in the middle of a Green surge as well, in Bristol West, which is the seat we concentrated on, we managed a 23% swing. So we can make big swings. Green members are very fired up for this election. There's a lot of attention on some of the really new things we're doing. You know, not just working with other parties under Unite to Remain, but the big ideas we're putting forward, the influence we've had on other parties. I think all of that means it is possible for us to get big swings in lots of different places.
Talking about working cross-party, and you mentioned the Remain alliance, where you've identified the 60 seats where only one candidate from the Greens, the Lib Dems and Plaid Cymru will stand to give a Remain candidate the best chance of winning that seat. There's been a bit of upset, hasn't there, on that, among some people in your party, on the Green Left movement, for example. You're unhappy with working with the Liberal Democrats because of some of those policies in coalition. Are you worried that by doing this, you're basically just propping up the Lib Dems? You may as well just be another branch of them.
Well, it's definitely not a merger. We work on various councils with both the Lib Dems and Labour, somewhere like the Forest of Dean, for example, or Stroud, indeed. So we're able to work with other parties in different ways. We don't agree with the Liberal Democrats on everything. You'll have seen Caroline Lucas criticising their revoke position. I'm very critical about their very limited spending plans. You know, they would be arguing essentially to continue austerity. But this is what grown-up politics is about. It's not difficult to negotiate with people you agree with all the time. It is difficult to sit down with people you don't agree with and do something that's actually in the interests of the wider country, and that's what we've done. Within the party, all the decisions were made by local parties democratically. We consulted all our members before we even started talking to other parties, and our democratic structures in the centre, the governance bodies, signed everything off. So it was all done in the right way. And, you know, people who don't share the majority view are perfectly free to be unhappy about that. But, I mean, our majority view within the party is this is the right thing to do in this election.
Just finally, we've seen floods devastate some parts of the country recently, with 24 hours of rainfall or a month's worth of rainfall.
It's still going on. I mean, it's not in the headlines as much, but there's this flood warnings across the Midlands and the North are still... It's a sea of red. People are still in terrible trouble and risk of more flooding happening.
I mean, are you linking this to climate change?
We have to acknowledge that the climate scientists are telling us these kinds of events will become more common as climate change progresses, and they are being. You know, these are places that were flooded in 2007. Millions were spent in Fish Lake on flood defences, which are now failing again. The way to fix this is further upstream. We can't just be putting in heavy engineering. We have to fix the land, the entire river catchments. Again, natural flood risk management is something Greens have been pioneering, particularly where we've got councillors and particularly where we've got influence over land management in sort of county councils as well. These are things that people are playing catch-up on, and it's prevention rather than dealing with this kind of tragedy that happens to people's homes that we need to be focusing on.
OK, thank you very much for coming to the studio today. Appreciate it.